Another episode of the Why Influence podcast. Today we have another honored guest. He's actually been on the show twice before. This is his third time. His name is Joe Raiti from Raitis Rides, and he creates YouTube videos reviewing cars. He's been creating daily content for a while now, and oftentimes more than daily. It's pretty ridiculous how much content that Joe's putting together for us. But before I jump into it too much, Joe, do you mind just sharing like an elevator pitch of what your channel's about? And then I'm going to share my screen and sort of show a little bit more deeper.
Sure, sure. Thanks for having me back on again, Jeremy. It's definitely a lot of fun to be on this journey and share this journey together with you as I'm on my journey and you're doing your thing with why we influence. But basically, Raitis Rides is a go-to all car review channel. We cover everything from exotics, muscle cars, sports cars, and everything in between. And it really has become a way for me to share my car passion, but also educate people and share that passion with people when they're looking for their own car purchase. So we really kind of cover everything, and doing the daily content allows us to definitely get a lot of different vehicles on the channel.
Yeah, you definitely. Nowadays, if I just search a car, it seems like one of your videos is popping up, and it's not just because I've clicked them; it's because you're actually there, reviewing those cars.
Yeah, it's been kind of cool because there was a couple different entities that actually, when they were building their own information for their website or their social media platform, when it came to actual car buying tips, the section on going to YouTube and doing research, we were one of 5 channels that many different organizations are selecting, saying, hey, if you want good detailed information on a variety of cars, you need to go to Raitis Rides along with some of these other big channels.
That's amazing. So I'm going to poke around your stuff real quick just to give our viewers some idea. So on our website, there's a search bar. I'm just going to type Raiti, and it comes up with your last 2 episodes. We interviewed you on episode 7 and 53 here. And there's details on each of these pages with links to the interviews. But basically, I was looking back at it, and our first interview, you were about a year to year and a half into your YouTube channel, and you had 86,000 subscribers and 22 million views back then.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
that was around May of 2019. And then we did our second interview. Actually, it was May 26th, so it was yesterday, 1 year ago. And that you had 258,000 subscribers and 78 million views. So you had about a 200% growth in views and subs from the year prior. And now here we are, May 25th, 2021, so another 1 year later for a third time. And now you're at 534,000 subscribers and 173 million views, which is just amazing growth. Now you've just doubled again in another year, and these doubles are getting to the bigger numbers to start doubling.
Yeah, it's definitely been exciting to see how it has grown, and it's funny because a lot of people, when they hear that we've been doing it for a little over 3 years, the channel, they get pretty blown away. But when you really start to look at the numbers like you have described there, it's just nuts how in the past 2 years it really has grown in leaps and bounds, and it definitely is a blessing, and very, very grateful for everybody's support because I can't do it without people tuning in for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's due to all the hard work that you're putting into it, which we'll get into. But yeah, you're getting somewhere between 200 and 300,000 views per day on your channel. That's quite a reach. So many people that you're hitting on a daily and monthly basis. You're it says down 30% or 11% in 30 days. So you're probably around 7.5 to 8.5 million views per month. Is what it looks like here.
Yeah, it's been definitely ramping up, and it's nice to have the consistency. I think that's what's so important that a lot of people lose sight of. It's like everybody wants those videos to quote unquote go viral. But I think really what builds a foundation is having the consistency, not only in the consistency of what you're producing, but how you're producing it, how you're sharing it with your fan base, with your viewership, and I think that makes people feel more comfortable when things are consistent rather than just a bunch of hits and misses.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So also I was looking back. Last time we spoke was a year ago, and you said that you had just hit 7,000 Instagram followers, and how that's been a real challenge for you to get to that seven, because you're putting a lot of work into Instagram as well.
Yes.
And the growth was a little bit slower there, and now you're at 20, which you've now almost tripled that number in a year. So I think that's a great another feat too. It is hard to grow on Instagram.
Instagram has been that one thing, the thorn in my side that's been difficult to grow. It's interesting because it's like the way I could compare it is like building a sandcastle right next to the ocean, because you get this great growth and then you'll see numbers drop and then they climb back up again. It's quite volatile from time to time, but I think I've developed a little bit better format, and that's one of those things is you kind of feel it out as you go. You make changes and you try some new things, and the great news is that having Lori on board full time now, she really has put some great creativity and energy into Instagram, and that definitely is part of the reason why the numbers are the way they are today, is because of having that extra kind of creative mind and energy to move things along.
Yeah, yeah, and it's clear. You can tell it's definitely doing its work. Laura's doing a good job with that. And then also, this is, I believe, new from last time, because I don't think you had a Patreon last year.
No, I did not.
And so now you've got a Patreon going, which is amazing. You got 50 patrons.
Yeah, it's that's another interesting thing that we Lori and I had been talking about that for a very long time, and for those that are just first listening, Lori is not only my videographer, my production manager, but she's also my wonderful wife. So when Lori came on board full time, that was something that she really wanted to focus on, was Patreon, and that's another thing that you kind of have to feel it out and see what works and what doesn't work. And we're still tweaking it. We actually came in like gangbusters with it and had a little bit larger kind of format to it with different tiers. And we've kind of scaled it back just a little bit, because all of this, no matter if you're doing Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Patreon, all of this takes time. It takes
Definitely.
time to do each and every day or each and every other day or whatever your format is. And if you want to put out a good product, you can't just do it all the time, full speed ahead. You're something's going to go wrong, whether it be on one of your social media platforms or your mental health.
Yeah,
Something's going to go
and it's a
wrong.
distraction too. I mean, if you put some work into Patreon, it's an investment, because now that work took away from another video you could have created,
You
and
are 100%
that's
correct.
another potential tens to hundreds to millions of views and reach that you wouldn't have had.
Yeah, you're 100%. It's that balance. It's trying to figure out, and I think that is something that we kind of talked about last time that we had met with the podcast here. Is one of the challenges is finding what is the best use of your time, and that is another thing that Lori has helped me with, because I'm the type of person that I want to do it all. I want to do it all, and I want to do it now, but that's just not humanly possible. But you have to look at what is the greater good of your time, and it's interesting because I've made some major changes, especially when it comes to certain cars that I film. It used to be like one of those things that, hey, I'm just a fisherman and I'm fishing with a big old net and I'm just going to cast that net and just collect everything that comes on in. Now I have been a little bit more focused on what I am bringing on the channel, because I'll be quite frank with you. There are certain vehicles that it literally is not worth my time anymore to film, because it's not going to generate the views and what people want to see. You know, it's really developing what not only future and potential viewers want to see, but also what your current fan base slash viewership wants to see. It's one of those things you kind of have to feel out that I don't think a lot of people take into consideration when they're doing this, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, there's different types of content that a lot of content creators create, and you just spoke on it just there. So you've got the content that's searchable, that brings in the new viewers, that is going to stick around for a while, or tackle some kind of short-term, boost in views, and then you've got the content for your audience that you've got to serve them as well. So there's a mix that you got to throw in there. So there may be
Definitely.
a car that doesn't get a lot of views, but that you want to get it for your audience because they're the ones that are going to really enjoy that.
Or vice versa, or getting something that maybe is new that the viewership normally doesn't watch, but I want to obviously have that vehicle so that if somebody's searching, for example, I just did a 2022 Hyundai Kona, not really a very popular car on the channel, but I know that down the line, especially as we get into 2022, the actual physical year, that more people will start searching that.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Because they
smart.
did some changes to it. It's not a major redesign, but they did some refresh changes. And I mean, I posted one a Kona yesterday, and it didn't do very well. But down the road it might. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, I did see they made some changes to that, and they've got the N and the electric one coming
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Nice. All right, so last time we spoke, you shared some stories about like unintended impact, or people that you've been touching, and you've over doubled the number of people you've touched since last year. And just curious if there's any impactful stories or like one impactful story that like is someone that really touched your heart from content that you're creating, maybe not of the content but just what you're doing. Do you have anything that comes to mind for like
You know,
an impact?
I think the biggest thing, obviously, the easiest kind of like people would just expect is because of the pandemic. I've had people that literally have had to stay locked in their houses, in their apartments, and thankfully, based off the state where I live and the type of thing that I do for a living, I've been able to continue filming, thankfully, and getting access to cars. And they said that was that one piece of real reality for them, that normal everyday stuff that they were still able to enjoy because we do have the daily content. And it's interesting because people from different countries have been affected by the pandemic in many different ways. And that's also been another interesting topic when they discuss how Raitis rides and the car reviews. It's more than just a car review. It's giving them that normalcy in their life. And
Yeah.
and one thing that I also like to do on the channel is I like to have some fun. And from time to time, the way that I describe certain things in a vehicle or around a vehicle, I like to try to put some little jokes in there and funny little things and get people laughing, because it's one of those things that, yeah, cars are great, and for a car person maybe it would be easier to just sit there and watch somebody talk about a car, but I also like to bring some laughter and some joy, and that's another thing that people have commented on. But I think what has happened is that those stories that we talked about, where maybe somebody was dealing with cancer themselves and going through chemotherapy, or a death in the family, those stories have now also, I don't want to say necessarily doubled, but definitely have grown in numbers because of the larger base that we have now.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, so I guess what kind of doors have been opening up for you? Because last time we talked, your goals were to try to do more in-person events, but then at the same time, COVID was happening, and then You had some good recent adventures, such as getting rides with Andretti, uh, and you were getting some of these fleet cars that were brought to you to your
Sure.
house. So you're rotating on some cars, and then obviously the local dealerships that you had partnered with are giving you opportunities to drive, a wide range of vehicles on a regular basis. So those are some of the things that come to mind for what kind of opportunities were opened up before. But has anything new come through, or how does it feel as far as like the opportunities that have been popping up as a result of doing your YouTube channel?
It's been interesting because, you know, a lot of the people um, that want to work with you want to meet you in person. And that has been the biggest challenge because of the pandemic and the major auto shows being canceled or postponed, is that the momentum that we had where we were meeting people at these different shows and getting to know them, because they want to know if they could trust you. This whole thing is based off trust. And it's not just a car reviewing thing. I think anybody who has any type of social media platform, your viewers, your fans, they trust you. They trust you to bring the information in the proper way, and that you're not duping them over. Same thing with making contacts in my industry, the auto industry, is they want to make sure that if they give you a car to review, it's going to be done in the right way. Not to say that you can't say anything negative or whatever about the car, but they don't want you to take the car and use it in improper ways, or do something stupid with it. They want to make sure that, you know, you are professional and that you're running a business here. And that's what it is. It's like, that's been the toughest hurdle. The challenge is that moving away from the name YouTuber. I don't use that in my vocabulary whatsoever. I am an automotive journalist that uses YouTube as my platform to do my journalism on automotive industry. And my journalism is the spoken word and videography, whereas
Yeah.
somebody else might use pen and paper. So the opportunities have really, it's been interesting. They've grown, but obviously it could be a lot bigger with different brands. I found that the connections that I had, for example, with Toyota, with Lexus, with Honda, with Acura, some of those brands that I had already established a relationship, they just got even stronger because, like we talked about last time, I've had to move a little bit into more of a virtual unveiling platform. Whereas
Hmm.
normally, if I see a car for the first time, it would be at, say, the New York Auto Show, and I have the car here and I'm able to share that with you. Now it's shifted to virtual unveils where the manufacturers will actually send me the media assets ahead of time. And then I put together a virtual unveil with their B-roll footage and their photos that they have provided of the vehicle, and kind of have gotten that out there until we could actually get together and see the vehicle together. So the opportunities with the ones that I've already worked with definitely have grown. I had actually a second opportunity to ride with Mario Andretti at the St. Pete Grand Prix at the end of 2020. Wasn't as put together as the first opportunity back in 2019 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but it still was an amazing experience that I got to have a second chance to meet Mario and drive. And this
Right.
time it was on my home turf here in St. Petersburg. So that was really exciting. One thing that I have noticed, and I think this is something that would probably be very good to share with everybody, is I've definitely noticed more organizations reaching out to me, wanting me to do maybe product placement, maybe wanting me to review their product on my channel. And I think that's where people need to be very, very careful. And same thing as before, not going after a viral video, because viral videos are one hit wonders. It's the same thing when you're looking at if a company offers you any kind of money or compensation to do something with their product. You want to make sure that you wholeheartedly believe in that product and want to share that with your fan base, rather than it just being a commercial and you're just now just doing infomercials, and that could actually disengage a lot of your viewers. So I constantly have to go through my emails and go through these different organizations that are reaching out. Hey, test this product for us on your thing, blah, 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 blah. And a lot of times I'm turning it down because I want to stay true to my fan base and not just bring a bunch of advertisements within the videos. They're already
Yeah.
watching the ads that pop up. I don't want to bombard them with more stuff, especially if it's stuff that I wouldn't even use or don't even believe in, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a fine line that you definitely are doing a good job, carefully treading, because once you, like you said, earning trust takes a long time, and I think last time we spoke, we were talking about how you could just lose it in an instant.
Yeah.
So it's definitely good that you're being careful with that, because I have seen a lot of people who have taken on some sponsors and then cause some disruption into the their ecosystem, and then they have to recoup from that, and it takes time to do
definitely. 100%.
that. So you've built stronger relationships, which is pretty amazing, because now you've got some of the major brands giving you content, which is helping you make content a little bit easier, and you don't have to travel for those. And then I would think that after all this craziness is over and the world has more physical events again, maybe next time we talk we'll be hearing updates. But I have a feeling that it's going to feel like it pops, and you're going to have like more events than you can handle at some point, because now you've grown so much during this time that you've sort of had a break from all that. I could definitely see that coming into play.
It's already happening now. The floodgates have opened when it comes to manufacturer events, to host the media, to showcase vehicles. Lori and I got through a very hellish 3 weeks of back-to-back trips. And
wow.
yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's like awesome that we get to travel and go to these places, but when you go to a location, and then you immediately, once the event's over, you fly home and you're home for 1 day, and you got to cover the media vehicles that are sitting in your driveway because they're going to get picked up the next week. But the next week you're not going to be home because you're getting on a plane again. It just adds a little bit of extra stress. And the thing is that what a lot of people don't understand is when we go to these media events, there literally is not much time to actually enjoy where you're at. It's because you're working. It's like they fill up a schedule. They provide you the vehicle to drive, and they give you routes and all that kind of other stuff. And there's a presentation they want you to sit through. And I understand all that, but that's the thing I think a lot of people forget is that, for example, we just got back from Montana. We enjoyed it a little bit because we were able to venture off once we got our work done. We kind of ventured off, but you really don't. It's not like a vacation. And that's been one of the challenges is with working with my wife, is that when they know that we're married, especially those that don't know us yet, they think I'm taking her as we're going to make a vacation out of it. But what they don't understand is that she is a full-time employee. She actually went to school for videography and filming and whatnot. And now she's actually and once they see her in action, they're just like, oh, why'd we even question that, But it's one of those things that there's a lot of people in the industry that try to take advantage of these auto manufacturers, and it, like I said, it all goes back to proving to them that you're legit, that you're the real deal thing, and that allows them to trust you even more. And another, it's funny how you brought up that things are going to start opening. Chicago Auto Show, which is one of the major auto shows. The majors are Detroit, Chicago, New York, and LA. Those are your 4 biggest. There's lots of other auto shows out there, but those are your 4 top auto shows. That one is on the calendar. We have received media credentials for July, the end of July. So we are going to be getting back into that environment where everything is sort of like under one roof. So that's a really nice thing to have.
Nice. Yeah, so this would be a good segue. Like, I wanted to dive a little bit into your why, because you've been doing this now for a couple of years, and it's always difficult to create a business around like a hobby and an interest, because sometimes you can lose that within it. And so I know you're trying to balance that as carefully as you can, because you definitely don't want to lose your passion for for cars, and having these immersive travel trips and feeling like there's not a lot of free time can feel a little constrained and draining. So I'm curious, like, what's keeping you going? Like, I don't know, like, how are you making this sustainable? I mean, last time we talked, you were sort of preparing for a pandemic to potentially shut down everything, and you were recording like 7 or 8 videos a day back a year ago when we talked.
I remember that.
So you were like hardcore hustling, but even from that, you've been still creating content at least once a day, but multiple days with multiple videos released, and you've been unstoppable since the beginning. So like, what's keeping you going right now?
It's thankfully my wife has owned a small business herself years ago, and she has definitely given me a lot of the stuff that she learned along the way, and she's been very helpful, even though sometimes I have been very stubborn and don't want to make any changes based off of what she's telling me. What I find out sooner or later is that whether you want to make the change or not, eventually the change is going to have to happen if you're gonna continue. And I think it all comes down to being more selective with your time. I've really have focused more on what I'm actually filming and why I'm filming it. What is this going to bring to not only my viewership but also the channel? I have switched. I've gone from filming 5, 6, 7 cars in a day. We're doing like 3 now. Sometimes if we need to hustle a little bit more, I might fit another one in there. But I really have kind of backed it down to doing just 1 a day. And there's still a couple times where I might do 2, but they're farther and fewer between. And that is the biggest challenge. And I think a lot of people don't even think that is even a possibility, that you might get burnout on your passion. And what I'm hoping to do is as we kind of get a more consistent schedule again with traveling and stuff, because obviously the schedule got so out of whack with the pandemic, with being home and no travel. So we were able to be out filming more locally. But now that the trips are starting to sprinkle back in, I've had to adjust the schedule, and we're getting a little bit more consistency. So what my goal is to sprinkle in more actual days off, because in this industry, you really don't have a day off.
Right.
You're either posting something on YouTube, posting something on Instagram, doing all these different facets. And that has been the challenge, is that even my own cars that I own, and the reason why I own the cars that I own is thankfully because of the growth of the channel. I haven't really been able to enjoy them as much as I would like to, because when the weekend's here, I kind of just want to stay away from cars a little bit, which is crazy to say, but it's one of those things. It's a balance, and you're going to have to figure out what's the right balance for you. But you can't. It's impossible to go full speed ahead 24/7. When you're trying to make it, I get it, because I did it. But I'm working more on closing time. When it's 6 o'clock p.m., I need to just stop. Because usually I put a video up. My video goes up around 5:30, 5:45. Once that video's up, I need to close the door and back away and separate myself from what's going on, and not be thinking about, because that's another thing is it got to the point where I'm constantly thinking about cars and the channel, and I'm not giving myself any kind of mental break. And I think that really is the thing that I want to work on more as this progresses, because it's only going to get worse as the channel grows, and as people reach out to you and companies reach out to me. Yeah, it's a good problem to have, but you got to be careful, because it could suck you down. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, even for like a brand new content creator with no audience, there's enough to do that it could be just a full-time job for 50 people, like all working nonstop.
Yeah.
Like and you're already established, in the industry, and you've got this momentum behind you, so it's not so easy just to take that time off. So I think that finding ways to do that makes a lot of sense, just for keeping your motivation going, getting those breaks, and keeping the
For
passion
sure.
there.
Yeah, that's important. And another thing that I realized too is with the pandemic and all these virtual unveils that we were doing, I almost felt like we were becoming more of a news card channel. And in the industry, because there's no auto shows, a lot of these manufacturers were bringing information to people so fast that there was no way that I could sustain doing the virtual unveils whenever a manufacturer would snap their fingers and say, "Hey, we got this new vehicle we want to showcase," and also do my regular car reviews, because I personally like the car reviews. I like being around the car. I don't like just showing B-roll and talking about it. Even though some of them have been very successful, that's just, I don't want to be a news channel. And that's something that I've kind of had. There's been some opportunities where manufacturers will send me media assets for a virtual unveil, and I've declined, just because it comes down to I only have so much time, and I need to do the full reviews in person,
Yeah,
because that's what people really
and it's
know when they think Raitis rides.
yeah, and it's a whole different workflow. Like going and doing a physical video. I mean, that's what you've created hundreds and hundreds of videos doing, and then now this whole new style where you got to talk to a microphone with a bunch of B-roll that you're putting
Yeah,
over. It's like a completely different experience from a content creation standpoint.
it really is. But and I hope for people that are listening, I don't want to sound like some big downer or something. Trust me, this is definitely a dream come true, and it's just one of those things that you gotta keep things in check as you progress from one stage to the next stage to the next stage, to make sure that you are staying true to yourself, obviously staying true to your fan base. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, you also want to make sure that things are in check with that person, because this is a time consuming industry that we're in, and you don't want to neglect any of your other responsibilities or things like that in your regular day-to-day life with you.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd like to, also clarify that, this is a podcast for, full-time content creators who are guests, and then the typical listener is a content creator or aspiring content creator. So, we're not here trying to paint a bad picture for you, but we're trying to get a real understanding of what it's like
Sure.
to live in that world, and that is not uncommon. Especially a couple of years into creating consistent content, to have to work through some, timing managements and motivation constraints and waves. That's all completely normal, and yeah, you're
Sure.
doing a great job navigating that,
Well,
because you
thanks.
still are posting that consistent content, which even established content creators aren't blasting out nearly as much as you, and that's you on sort of cruise control, it seems like. So
Yeah. Well, it's gotten the key is consistency. How I do the reviews makes editing a lot easier, even though I have to dedicate a lot of time to editing. Um, because we still do everything in house. That's another thing that people always ask me, "Hey, who's doing your editing? Who's doing this? Who's doing that?" Right now, for quality control, we're doing everything in house. I think the next step, and I think I remember you asking me, maybe it was in the first podcast, when you asked, like, how do you know when you made it? Like, what do you see as a goal here? And at the time, I had mentioned my wife Lori coming on full time, and since December of 2020, no, yeah, since December of 2020,
yeah, because he
she
wasn't
is
full
she is
time last
on.
time.
No, she was not.
Yeah,
And the pandemic actually put a pause on that, because we were supposed to go full time in April of 2020. But because of the pandemic, we were a little concerned. How is this going to pan out here? How are, when it comes to revenue income and being able to go and do filming, like, how is that going to work with this pandemic going on? And it eventually got to the point where it's just like anything else: getting married, buying a house, having a child. There's no perfect time. You try to get as many ducks in a row as you can and plan it out as best as you can. But it gets to the point where either you do it or you don't. And I think that's what eventually happened was we got to the point where the videographer that was working with me, he accepted a full-time position working with a local race team here in St. Petersburg as their social media specialist. And I understand that, everybody's got to follow their own dreams and desires and whatnot. So when that announcement was made, Lori and I took it as, hey, this is a message. We need to just do it now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, I was say congrats on getting to that point, because I know that was something we spoke on before. Was what's one of some of your major goals coming up, and Lori coming full time to work with you on this, and you guys doing this together was a major top goal of yours last year, and now a year later you've had that for 5 or 6 months now, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's I appreciate you saying that, and it's one of those things that it just makes it extra special because for so many years she was the one who told me I should start a YouTube channel, and of course I never listened. And now to be able to share it with her, and because it was a bummer, man. I would go out filming and be able to drive some amazing cars and have some amazing experiences, and I would come home and share them with her, and she was still working her regular 9 to 5, and it was like kind of kind of took away a little bit from what was happening. So now to be able to share it together, and that's another thing. I mean, it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows and moonbeams with her working full time. I mean, that's another thing that we've had to work around, is having the relationship that we're husband and wife, but now we're also coworkers, and being able to draw that line and focus on one thing at one time and then the other. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things
I've
that it
talked about
sounds
that.
simple, but it's
Yeah, it's not. I've talked about that with my wife too. I'm like, I try to walk that line carefully, because we both work from home and we do our own things, and then the last thing we need to do is, like, at the dinner table, we just be talking about our business that we're working on together, and then
Sure.
where's the living part of everything. So there's definitely a balance that comes with that.
Exactly. It really is. Life is all about balance. I mean, like I said, when I first started the channel, it was working as a teacher, and then those after school hours. Thankfully, Lori was very understanding that I would be at the kitchen table until 12 o'clock, 12:30 in the morning, editing footage, answering comments and stuff. And now, thankfully, I've been able to tweak it to where I'm not having to do that all the time. There have been emergencies that pop up, especially when you're trying to upload a video and maybe the power goes out in your house, and then you got to figure out, well, what am I going to do, and how that is all going to go down. But it's definitely been one heck of an adventure, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next step is, and how long do I want to do it for? That's another thing that we've been talking about is, what is the what's the game plan? What's the end goal? Do I want to do this forever? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're 3.5 years into this now, right? So, yeah, it's what are you? I mean, I wanted to ask a little bit about your workflow, but now we're talking. I just want to keep this part going. So, like, what are you thinking about? Because if we talk again in a year, like, what are some goals, or where are you aiming right now? Like, what's
Well,
the
it's interesting. It's almost like I miss those days when I used to, it would take a month to get 1,000 subscribers, and you would get so excited, 7,000, 8,000. It's like I went somewhere locally and somebody saw me that they hadn't seen in a while, and they're like, "Man, you just hit 500,000," and they're like, "What does that feel like?" And I'm like, "It feels good, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you stop focusing so much on the numbers. Like, I'm not. There used to be a time where I would constantly be looking, how many views do I have? And I'm not saying that I don't look at analytics from time to time, but I'm very judicial when I look at analytics. It's sort of like the stock market. You don't want to look at the stock market and see how your stocks are doing every single day, because they could be up, they could be down, they could be anywhere in between. Same thing with analytics. You don't want to look at it constantly, because you're never going to be able to figure it out. They're constantly changing all of the algorithms and the parameters and how you get earn revenue, and when do they put ads in in the videos, when do they actually play, what types of ads are they, things like that. And it's gotten away from actual numbers. Now, obviously, I am going to say that the goal, if you want to call it that, is we're going to be at 1 million subscribers within a year. I mean, that is going to happen. And it's mind blowing to even say that. I mean, when I say to people, we have over 500,000 subscribers. I mean, I remember when I was saying we had 20,000 subscribers, and that felt like I was at the pinnacle of where it was
Right.
going to be. But I think it all boils down to, I focus more on just the content that I want to produce, and I think the rest will come. And I think now it's almost shifted a little bit to where I'm focusing more on protecting myself. And what I mean by that is making sure that I have some of that mental health space, to step away when I can. And what I would like to see, I know this may sound crazy to some that are in the industry, eventually I would like to put up a little less content. Maybe go to 3 or 4 videos a week rather than every single day, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And right now, I think the biggest challenge for me and my industry is that we are constantly in this fight or flight mode when it comes to finding vehicles, because right now, like we discussed before we went on air, that there is a super chip processor shortage. Inventories at dealerships are very, very low, and even what manufacturers are building has slowed down greatly. So when there's a vehicle that's new, that's available for me to review, I literally have to be ready at any moment's notice. And to be honest with you, I don't like living that way. That's not what I envisioned, is constantly running around to different dealerships trying to track down one vehicle. Because what I try to normally do is to maximize my time. I'll find a location and maybe do like 2 vehicles, maybe 3 vehicles at one location. And that allows me to put that content together. Now it's become this thing where there's not enough vehicles at certain locations for me to do that. And I have to go and run around all over the place, which just takes more time and more energy. And I don't feel as as prepped as I want to be, or at least when I say prepped, I mean more like mentally
Right.
prepped, be in that, because it's like when I used to teach, it, you're it's like I'm in this mode where you're on it, because we film in a live format. When the camera goes on, it's like game time's on, and I have to be in that correct mindset to be able to do what I do that people like so much. I don't know if that makes. I don't know if
It
I'm
does.
leaning all over the place, but
Yeah, I mean, those are, I think, great goals to be aiming for. And if we speak a year from now and get an update, and you're like, I've been able to protect myself, I can shut off and not think about things after 6 o'clock. And Lori and I have just took a week vacation where we didn't even think about this and got away. Like, you find a way to balance your life. Now that you've created this whole ecosystem, I think that's a great thing to aim for, because that's what life's about, is like to balance all
living
these
it.
things. Yeah.
Life is about living it, and I think that is something that has changed a little bit. It's interesting how all these amazing opportunities are great, but like I said, you're constantly that hamster in the wheel, trying to get to these events, trying to get access to the vehicles. And what winds up happening is you're not living your own life. You're doing things to share with other people, which is great, but in the end, like I said, like you said, you gotta live life. And that's what I want. Is I want to there's a happy medium there, and I'm on this journey now. Instead of going full speed ahead to grow it and to get it out there, I've backed it down. And it's interesting because when I go to local cars and coffee events or car shows locally, a lot of people still are blown away that I don't film anymore at the events, because that's how we started. I would go to a
Yeah.
cars and coffee event. I would literally walk around and choose
That was the first time
10.
I heard about you. You reviewed one of my friends' E36 M3s.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
before you were doing stuff for Montu.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because now people they see me and they're like, "Hey, can you review my car?" And I'm like, I don't really do that anymore here. And that's another thing, is like, people know me, and that is another adjustment that I'm making. That even when I'm not Joe Raiti from Raitis Rides on my YouTube channel, I'm still Joe Raiti from Raitis Rides for people who know me out there. And I need to be careful how I act, how maybe driving on the road, things like that. And it's so random. Like, I was at Costco. I kid you not. I was at Costco in Clearwater about a month ago, and if you've been to Costco, you know that after you buy your stuff, there's usually a person at the door that real briefly takes the receipt and kind of makes sure that you don't have anything in there you didn't pay for or whatever. This elderly woman who was working there knew who I was. And I was blown away. Now, I had a Raitis Ride shirt on. It wasn't this particular one with the big, huge R on it, but it was a smaller, it was a no zonks Raitis Ride shirt. And she's like, I like your shirt. I know who you are. And I'm like, well, if that's one of those moments. If I was being a jerk or being rude, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
people
Yeah.
know me now. I go to airports, and even when you're wearing the mask because of the regulations for the pandemic, people recognize me either with the mask on, or they hear my voice and they're like, I know who you are. So it's like I have to be really mindful about how I am, even in
Mm.
public, when there's no cameras on, and I may even not even have a Raities Ride shirt on, and people know who I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the reach that you've gotten to this
It's
point.
it's it's cool. That's probably one of my favorite things, is when I see the variety of the age groups. We just had the 500K celebration at Walker Ford not too long ago, and it's just so cool because not only is there a great variety of cars that show up for the celebration, because we have like a little car show and stuff, but it's just people old, young, and everybody in between. And I think that's something that I've always liked about being a car enthusiast. Doesn't matter what your job is, doesn't matter the color of your skin, what religion you believe in, or whatever. It's like we all have this common passion of, things four wheels with an engine. And it just, I feel like that's something that just breaks barriers, and is an amazing thing to be able to share with people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that your goals for next year to sort of get a little more control over the balance. So let's talk briefly, because I know we're a little bit limited on time here, about like your current workflow, because I feel like that's probably going to be changing significantly from today to the next time we speak. So just do you mind just sharing, like, I mean,
Sure.
like, how many videos do you have in queue, or what does your team look like right now? What's your average week look like? Just,
Sure.
that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, average week, we're basically, I think the last time we talked, I had one administrative day, and what the admin day was all about was sending emails, editing videos, answering comments, really doing all the legwork of what I need to do everything else. And then I was used to film, the 4 other days of the week. So out of your 5 day quote unquote work week, I was filming 4 and admin on 1, and then hopefully the weekend I could kind of just take a break and enjoy some time. Even though I'm still, making sure a video gets uploaded or whatever. But what I do now is I have 2 administrative days. That's what it's gotten to the point of, to keep the touch points going, to make the calls, to edit the videos, and basically, we're still a team of 2. Lori and I do it all. One thing that she really handles a lot of is things like accounting, bookkeeping, all that small business stuff, because that's what we are. We are a small business, and part of her goal is to give me the creative brain space so that I could do what I could
Mm.
do, and I'm not worried about payroll or scheduling tickets to go to the Chicago Auto Show for the airline or hotel, and that really has been so helpful and so tremendous. But basically, on the days that we're filming usually from around 9:30 until 3:30. Obviously we take an hour or so for lunch, but the rest of the time is filming, and normally we're filming 3 to 4 cars now instead of 5, 6, or 7. That was just
Yeah.
it just was it was okay for the period of time. But one thing that Lori has definitely helped me out with when it comes to our workflow is she wants to make sure that things are a little bit more, I don't want to say perfect, but more correct. So, for example, she really focuses on the shot. And because she's behind that camera, she wants to make sure that the product that she puts out is exactly what she wants it to be. And that takes a little bit more time. Whereas before, when I was working with one of my other videographers, it was more like, okay, well, let's just go, 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 go. If it's not perfect, if there's glare, we're just going to keep going, because it's all about just we're collecting all this content. Now we've been a little bit more slower with that in a good way, and the response has been really great. A lot of people can tell, and I think even myself, I could look at a video filmed by Lori and look at a video filmed by one of my other videographers that I used to work with, and there definitely is a clear difference. The downside is it just takes a little bit more time. So,
Right.
but that's week in and week out, and then on the weekends you're sprinkling some time of putting up some Instagram posts, making sure a video goes live, because we are, like I said, we are still posting since December 2017. We have put up at least one video every single day. Now we're
Wow.
over 1,700 videos.
Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to make you think a little bit for a second, and I'd like you to just imagine what would need to be true for you to have the balance that you're looking for, and how do you see the workflow changing, and what do you think you might say to me a year from now when we talk about how the workflow should be in order for it to be to where you need to be?
I think really, and I've started to think about this is what do I want? What do I want out of life? What do I want for myself? What what really motivates me? And obviously, being a high school teacher for 18 years, I really wasn't motivated by money, because as a high school teacher, I did not make a ton of money. What I
Right.
did have was a lot of time. And now it's sort of flip flop to where I have very little time, but I'm definitely making more money. So for me, I need to keep working on and developing. What is a point that I'm comfortable with, and then once I'm at that point, then dialing it back and allowing everything else to kind of do its thing. What I really would like are three. I think what would be smart is having more 3-day weekends. I
Hmm.
need some, and where I'm actually at minimum making sure a video goes live, and maybe doing a post or two on Instagram, and that's it. Like, not talking about cars really, or going anywhere, or thinking about where am I gonna be filming the next week. I think that type of stuff, and definitely I need a vacation. We really need a vacation away from this, and it's just hard because obviously now I've built expectations with my viewership,
Right.
and I mean, a lot of them have been understanding. When we started Patreon, I had 3 different tiers, and we were doing all this, shout outs, and I was doing video calls and things like that. And we basically had to take it and just kind of push everything aside and just keep it at the most simplistic, behind the scenes footage stuff on Patreon, because it got it's just too much.
Yeah, I remember saying
Um,
that you had those phone calls for the top tier.
yeah, I mean, it may not seem like a big deal taking a half hour, or excuse me, 15 minutes to talk to somebody, but when you got 6, 7 people that want to do that, it just adds up, and that's the thing is really just trying to find where I feel comfortable, and I feel like I'm getting there. I definitely have been talking with Lori and really doing some soul searching of what truly is important, because I never thought in a million years that I would be doing a job based off my passion. But you do seriously need to be careful, because it could turn on you in a heartbeat, and you get burnt out on it, and you're not going to want anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. But I think if I could keep making those adjustments and being okay that I don't need to put out so much content. I think it comes from a place when I came from a middle income family. You know, yeah, we didn't really need a want for anything, but it wasn't like I had my parents buy me a car or pay for this or pay for that. So, I kind of feel like a lot of the things that I was taught as a kid to work hard and go after what you want has got me to this point, but that philosophy could also run me into the ground. And I need to be very, very careful with that, because it's very, very consuming. This
Yeah.
industry will eat you up. It really will. And you got to be careful, and you gotta ask yourself what's important. Who do you want to be? Do I need to have 10 million followers to feel accomplished? And to be honest with you, I don't. I'm almost to the point where it's like I would be happy just staying at 500,000. And if I could take back some of my own personal time and still have that fan base and that consistent views that I have now, I'd be okay with it, to be honest with you. But I know it's going to grow, because the thing is that thankfully people like what we're doing, and they like how I give them information and make them laugh and really share the whole car passion with them. So I know I'm probably rambling here, and you're
No, I
probably
mean,
like, cut the
well,
mic.
no, you're good, because you're rambling on what I think a lot of content creators need to hear. And for those listening, we didn't really dive super deep into all the fun and the joy of what Joe's having, because that's all definitely there. But we're
It
diving
is.
into what's difficult to work through, so that people can learn from that. And you sharing that story is going to help other content creators push through their hard times, because you're just sharing that authentically and vulnerably. So I appreciate
I,
that.
of course,
Um,
and I feel like nobody talks about it, and that's the thing is that nobody. I think eventually where I would like to see a little bit of a pivot is maybe writing a book or something about this experience, and sharing some of these more volatile things that come from becoming a content creator, because people see you from the lens that you portray to them, but you don't really know unless you're in it. And like you said, there are tons of great things, and I've met so many great people. And to be able to really do what is my passion, which is cars, and share that with people, that really is such an amazing thing. But you still got to take care of yourself. You still got to make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to feel fulfilled. Because that's going to change over time. I'm sure there's probably people out there that are like, they would kill to have the fan base or the viewership that I have. But it's just one of the things, until you're in it, you really don't know what's behind the curtain
right.
going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's been amazing to see your journey, because we have talked sort of in a yearly update kind of way, and to see how your mindset, the struggles, what you're experiencing has evolved through that time has been pretty amazing. So I just want to reiterate. I know we're here close to the end, but I just want to reiterate. Like, I just want to extend a congratulations to you for reaching the point that you're at. You've gone full time from being a high school teacher to being a full time content creator. You've always dreamed about being around cars. You tried being a race car driver when you were younger, and now you're experiencing that world as a career. And you're living in your passion. You're making new friends. You've reached 500,000 subscribers and touched 75 million, maybe not people, but touch points on people of that's specifically just on YouTube. And then now you've got Lori full time with you, so you guys can do all this together and build this life together through all that. So that's such an amazing accomplishment to have in 3 years, to go from a high school teacher to now you're living in this whole different world. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I never would have imagined a million years, and it really is an honor to be able to share this story. And I think that's something that I want to work with you with in the future, is really just trying to help others navigate through their dreams and their goals when it comes to being a content creator. And I think that's just the teacher side of me. That's why I got into teaching, is I care about people. And I would love to I mean, not that I would love to, I do love to, because I'm here right now, share my story and share what's going on, so that people can have a better understanding of what they want and how they want to go about it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you doing that. It's people like you that come on the show that share your journeys, that allow it to, like, other people to hear it and learn from it and grow from there. So I know we're a little bit over on time here. I want to open the floor for just, knowing that the listeners here today, if you share it in your channel, you're going to have some people tuning in that maybe aren't content creators. But as far as who's here on my brand and on my podcast, it's primarily content creators, people that are just starting out, or people that are as established or maybe more established than you on their platforms. So I guess, do you have any last words that you'd like to share with them?
I think the most important thing that I could say is go for what you believe in. Focus on what is important to you, and the rest will come. If you're just doing this to be famous or get a bunch of numbers and stats, it may not be the right thing for you, or that may not lead you to a healthy life down the road. So I think if you stay true to yourself, the rest comes. I mean, that's what's got me to this point, is I'm still just being myself. It's one of those things where you're going to get so many negative comments from time, and it's like, who cares? Just be you, and the rest will come.
Awesome. Well, Joe, I appreciate you taking the time today to share your journey. I'm definitely excited for you to get to where you are now, and I'm excited to see where you'll be. Hopefully in a year or so, when we do another update, we'll be hearing how you have this balanced life and talking about the next level of where you're going. So I'm excited, and you've done great leaps each time we speak. So it's amazing. So keep up the great work, and thank you again for sharing with us.
It's been a pleasure, and it's been an honor to be here. Thanks, Jeremy.
Sure. And for those of you listening, listening to these episodes and watching these interviews is a great way to learn from people that have done it and to help you overcome your barriers. But at some point, you have to just take the leap and get started, or make the changes that you need to make to keep going with that momentum. And so hopefully some of what you learned today helps you with either of those, if you're trying to start out or if you're trying to continue going. But just, it's not all about just tuning into these episodes. So make sure that you take what you learned today and apply some of that to what you're doing, and make sure to maybe reflect a little bit and find ways to do that if you haven't already, because there's a lot of value that Joe shared with you today. And I think it can help you tremendously with your journey on growing a bigger audience and making bigger impact for what you're trying to do. So good luck with your venture. And Joe, thanks again.
Thank you.